I understand that racism is bad. Okay? And there is no counter argument to racism being bad. Cancer is bad. Racism is bad. Right? These things, we could kind of go through the things which are everyone knows are bad. But I also believe that that racism, and I'm not going to sit here and agree totally with Tucker Carlson's rant from Fox News, but there is a certain part of me that says, like, what are we doing here? Like, the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacy groups have always existed. And showing them on TV, pretending like they're making a big move, which they are not. Like, there's less racism than ever. Matter of fact, I'm not sure if you're aware, we're living in a country where there's less crime than ever. I saw this article, and it talks about the availability heuristic. The availability heuristic refers to a common mistake that our brains make by assuming that examples which come to mind easily are the most important and prevalent things. For example, research by Steve Pinkert from Harvard University has shown that we are currently living in the least violent time in history. There are more people living in peace now than ever. The rates of homicide, rape, sexual assault, child abuse are all falling. Yet, ask yourself, if you're married with children, are you more or less uptight? Do you have more anxiety about your children being protected from sexual abusers than ever? Of course. Do you know why? Because we're also in the information age where we're living in the most and best reported time ever. So any crime that exists is reported over and over and over again through various media outlets. And so we assume that because those individual stories are everywhere, that racism, murder, rape, all of these things are everywhere. And they're really not. They're just more reported and more available and more covered than any other time in history. And that's essentially what I think Tucker Carlson was getting to. Like, there was a march, a white supremacist march in Boston. This is going back like 2 years ago. And there were like 300 white supremacists, right? And they were surrounded by 3,000 counter demonstrators. 3,000. And the idea is like, look, is even one white supremacist too many? Sure. But these numbers aren't growing, they're shrinking. But we talk about them as if it's a major, major issue and it's dividing schools and states and state. Like, no, it's not. We have all concluded that smoking is bad. Cancer is bad. Racism is bad. Right? Like, we've all concluded these things. There is no counter argument to it. But in our effort to eradicate racism, we not only make the racist more prominent, we also misidentify things which are oftentimes to help people of all races. And the best example of it is this Rich Paul rule. The Rich Paul rule is not racist. Matter of fact, it's the opposite of racism. And here's the easiest way to identify. You guys remember the story about 2 weeks ago about Adrian Peterson? Okay. Adrian Peterson is a first ballot Hall of Fame running back. You want to argue with me about it? Fine. I'll show you the numbers, show you the longevity, comeback player of the year, MVP. Did you get mad because he whooped his son with a switch and got suspended, was away from the team for most of a season? Okay. Like, we can go on a different discussion about that, but the fact remains that he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's made $99 million in contracts alone, not endorsements. So well over $100 million during the lifetime of his NFL career. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm not sure if you heard, do you guys know that Adrian Peterson actually rushed for over 1,000 yards last year? You're like, really? Like, yeah, actually over 1,000 yards. So he's done it for a long time. He's made a lot of money. And the story 2 weeks ago was he's broke. He's actually has a loan to pay off other bad loans. and then a loan on top of that, and a loan on top of that, all to pay off the other bad loans. And he's defaulting on all said loans. And you're like, how is that possible? Now, do I think part of it is he hasn't spent his money wisely? Sure. Do I think part of it is he has children, a bunch of children and kids out of wedlock, and that becomes increasingly expensive? Sure. But his representative said he trusted the wrong people, right? How many stories have you heard? How many times have we heard the statistics about athletes going broke? Right? Tim Duncan had a guy. Drew Brees had a guy. He bought diamonds off a guy, right? Faulty diamonds. Like it does, in fact, happen. So I use that as the micro to talk about the macro. Micro small, macro big. Right? On the micro, you have these individual stories of players being led awry, astray, to a bad decision. And whether it comes to money or in this particular case, remember, what this is simply about is who is allowed on campus to meet with prospective professionals to advise them on whether or not they should stay in college or go to be a professional. And so the NCAA came out yesterday and said, look, hey, you got to have a college degree, 3 years of the NBA PA, and come in, meet with us so you know our rules. Not a lot, right? And it was met with claims of racism. Not only is that not racist, it's the opposite of it. Because of the college basketball players who will put their name into the draft, my guess is 85 to 90% of them are African-American student athletes, right? Is that a fair number? Like, it's not a crazy number. It's not every single one of them, but a high percentage of college, especially basketball players, African-American. And why are they doing that? To protect them. So that the money that they earn or when they choose to make a decision, it's a more informed decision. It's not an uncle. It's not an aunt. It's not a cousin. It's not an AU coach. It's not a runner. It's somebody who's seen as reputable. And if you think that having a college degree isn't important, that's fine. But the NBA PA actually says you have to have a college degree to be an agent. Now, they do make, you can apply if you want. Okay? You can apply for an exemption. The NFLPA, that's the NFL Players Association, in order to be an agent, a certified agent in the NFL, you not only have to have a bachelor's degree, you have to have a master's or law degree. Are they racist as well? Or do they simply want their athletes to be represented by people of high repute? It's the opposite of racism when you're trying to protect the very people who some would lead you to believe you're trying to fleece. Like, I don't know if you guys have read Freakonomics. You guys ever read Freakonomics? Freakonomics is basically the study of statistics, and that every different statistic you have, right, increases the likelihood of success or of failure or of how much money you make. Two-parent home, your parents college educated. What level of schooling did they go to? You know, did anybody have substance abuse? What neighborhood you grew up in? Every different determinant. Did you smoke? Right? Or did your parents smoke? All of these different stats, there's a statistical analysis that says you're more likely to have a lifetime filled with success. And the NCAA, which, oh yeah, by the way, is made up of member institutions, right? Their whole job, what's it called when you have like a saying, a slogan or whatever? It's your whole, not necessarily motto, but bigger than motto. It's like their whole mission, their mission statement is to educate. So it shouldn't be a shock that they want educated people helping educate their players as to making the smart decision to stay or to go, right? The whole idea is just like Freakonomics. It doesn't mean that all of the good agents have advanced college degrees or have been members of the NBA PA and a certified agent, but they're more likely to provide sound advice if they've gone through these steps. Not every brilliant multimillionaire, billionaire has completed college, but a high percentage have. Then I heard our colleague, Chris Broussard, who co-host The Odd Couple, which airs at 4 o'clock Pacific Coast time, 7 o'clock East Coast time. Go on Twitter with this rant.
They're calling it the Rich Paul rule, which is appropriate, but I'm going to call it something else. Straight up racism. But instead of crying, complaining, and begging, it's time for black people to take action. You fight power with power. And one of our greatest sources of power is our athletic dominance. So I'm calling on all of our great black football and basketball players. Instead of going to these big universities that chew you up, spit you out, and don't care about you, go to an HBCU, a Howard, Morehouse, Hampton, Xavier of New Orleans, and many other schools. I know some of them are still NCAA, but at least the millions of dollars you generate would go to benefiting black people who are in dire need of economic empowerment. Secondly, our professional athletes, instead of giving $2-3 million donations to these big schools that you stayed at for a year or two, give it to an HBCU. Then they could strengthen their academic programs and their athletic programs and facilities.
Okay, none of that makes any sense at all, with the exception of the idea of, hey, what if all the great black athletes went to an HBCU? Okay, but the idea that like Steve Smith, who gave $3 million in his mom's name because he had a great experience at Michigan State to pay it forward. That Carmelo Anthony had a great experience at Syracuse to pay it forward. Like that he's somehow a bad guy for giving money to the university is a joke. I'm embarrassed for Chris Broussard. Embarrassed for him. They don't chew you up and spit you out. They protect you. And that's the idea of this. Pay attention. Dude, you got a 4-year scholarship now. You sign on the line that is dotted. Okay. You not only get into a college you couldn't get into on your own. And that's for all football and basketball players. Like, dude, you know how hard it is to get into Michigan? It's North Carolina, Texas. Like, talk to somebody who has, and he has 2 kids that are in school. How those bills feel, Chris? How'd you like to not have those bills? You get in. Okay? You get cost of attendance money in your pocket. You get the best books, okay? The best dorms, the best medical care. You get the best classes. You get the best coaching. You get the best facilities. They prepare you to be a professional football player and prepare you to be a professional in life or a professional basketball player. And if you leave at any point in time you want to come back, you can come back. And now you can actually be on the field or on the court as a coach. It's so uneducated what people are telling you because they take little stories and they think, man, the poor athlete's getting fleeced. No, they're not. We're living in a time where not only are we the safest we've ever been, the most cared for we've ever been, but where student athletes are more protected and more supported than they have ever been. If you get kicked out of a school, if you get shunned, you tried. You tried. Because everything that the NCAA has created is all of this netting because they don't want anybody to fail. They want everybody to graduate. That's why they have what's called the APR. It's not racist. This is just a nonsensical, stupid argument that actually doesn't make sense. It's like when Jalen Rose said it was racist because they want more analytics people. No, it's not. It just means that it opens up to everybody, not just athletes, which gives people who are Asian, who maybe don't grow as tall, a chance to be involved in the NBA. There's no limit. Nobody said that black people can't study mathematics and study statistics. Of course they can. Matter of fact, Chris actually led off with one of our great things of black empowerment is our athletic acumen. Did you know that if I sat in this radio and I said, hey, black athletes are better than white athletes, there'd be people that would say to me, that's racist. That's true. It's not true that it's racist. It's true that people will say that because they'll say, well, if you think that the African-American athlete is better than the white athlete, that means white people can be better than and black people at something else. Well, that's not what I said. Like, we're creating arguments to where everything falls back on racist. And the truth to this argument is it's not about Rich Paul because no one actually knew Rich Paul didn't have a degree until yesterday. Until LeBron pointed out, because LeBron's a complete narcissist, which we've created this ridiculous narcissist where he thinks everything is about him. Dude thought he invented barbershop talk. Can't make it up. That's the first time anyone knew Rich Paul didn't have a degree. And not only is it not racist, it's the opposite of it because we're trying to protect the very race that supposedly we're shaming. because there aren't as many black agents as there are white agents, which there are black agents. There's also Asian agents. There's gay agents. There's straight agents. Because there is no prerequisite for athletic acumen. It's simply, are you willing to do the grind, get the clients, work your way up, represent the right people, do the right deals? Hi, I'm Doug Gottlieb from Fox Sports Radio, and you need to subscribe to the Fox Sports Radio YouTube channel where you can hear and see me. Why not? Plus everybody else who's awesome here on Fox Sports Radio.